Welcome to Pera's Playbook. This is your host, Alex Pera. Let's open up our playbook and see who our guest is. Please enjoy. Welcome to episode 90 of Pera's Playbook. Today I'm joined by former NFL linebacker Tim Kearney, a Kingsford, Michigan native, NMU graduate who played for the Cowboys, the Packers, the Bengals, the Kansas City Chiefs, Buccaneers, and the St. Louis Cardinals over a 10-year career, and an NMU Hall of Famer. So, Tim, how you doing?
Good. I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I always like to get different UP guests on if I can, and sometimes I'll go on like the UP Sports Hall of Fame and kind of scroll through and see if I can get connected with anyone. And luckily, I got connected with you, and you've got some great stories that you're gonna share with us throughout the day here. But before we get to your pro career, I wanted to talk about UP football. Back when you were playing back in the 60s, and I mean, obviously it was way different than it is now. There's so many
Yes.
8-man teams in the UP, and football was a lot more popular back in your day than it is now.
Yes, absolutely. I can't believe, I can understand, I try to keep up with Northern's football. Me and my roommate and I keep in touch. My former, the roommate I had at Northern,
Yeah,
and it's just it seems, but it's logical that Northern has moved away from football and they're a hockey school. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. Oh yeah,
and guess what? They should have been. I don't know
yeah.
why hockey wasn't more prevalent back in my day, but I'd have loved to play hockey, by the way. But it seems like that's their emphasis, and like you said, 8-man teams and stuff. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. If you look across the UP at college and high school level, football is just not as strong. I mean, Kingsford, some of the bigger schools still manage to put together
Yep.
a pretty good roster. Escanaba, Marquette, but
Yep.
if you look at a lot of schools, like Ishpeming is now going to be 8-man. I mean, that was an amazing program for such a long time, and now they're
Yes.
down to St. Ignace, another one that had some success. Munising, all 8-man teams, and I think in a way 8-man is good for some teams. Like I know the Rock Mid Penn, they just got their football team back a couple of years ago, and it's because they can play 8-man because it's such a small school. They didn't have a football team for I don't know how many years, and they were able to get one back. But
And isn't the Alex, if I'm not mistaken, not that I follow it as close as I should, but uh, the 8-man thing is really a numbers game, isn't it? They just didn't have the number of
yeah,
football guys come out to where they could
yeah,
man a full team.
yeah. I think some of the 8-man teams would play with 11 kids. They'd have 8, and then they'd have 3 kids on the bench or 4 kids on the bench. They
Right.
they wouldn't even have enough to go both ways. 8-man. Some of these
Right.
schools.
Wow.
It's
That's
really
crazy. I mean, wow, that's the difference in the generations, I guess,
it is. It definitely is. Um, but then you played at Northern, and you talked about how their football program isn't exactly what it once was. And I think Michigan Tech has beat Northern 12 years in a row now, or it's something like that. It's been quite a few in a row.
That wouldn't have happened back in the day. That's all I know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, different state of the program. I interviewed their coach early on in my podcast, and he seems to have the right mindset to try to move the program forward. It's just, hopefully it's not too late for him.
Right. Right.
Sometimes it's unrecoverable when you go too deep in a hole as a program.
Right.
So you were a 4th round pick to the
Yep.
Cowboys. Leading up to the draft, did you have any idea like, oh, I know I'm going to get drafted. I hope I get drafted.
Back even back in those days, Okay. If I was scouted by every team in the NFL, believe it or not, and let me tell you something now. I mean, getting up to Marquette, in the wintertime isn't the greatest thing some scout's going to want to put on his schedule, right?
Right.
And I had a call. I swear, this is a true story. Well, all my stories are true, but uh, he was a Cowboy scout, and he was in Green Bay. Now, the Cowboys were on a mission. They were having a great season. And by the way, when they drafted me in '72, they won the Super Bowl. So I was drafted by the Super Bowl champs on top of everything else. So um, he said, "How far am I away from Marquette?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know, a couple, 2.5, 3 hours if you don't run into some weather or something." He said, "That's what I'm afraid about. Would you mind doing me a favor?" I said, "What's that?" "Would you meet me in Green Bay?" I said, "Yeah, of course I would." So I drove down to Green Bay, and he contacted some high school. I mean, you walk in there with your Dallas Cowboy credentials, right, and into some school in Green Bay, and go, "Do you mind if I use your gymnasium? I'm going to work this kid out." Of course, come on.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are the things you did back then. I got to thinking about draft day. Uh, there were only three networks that you could follow. There was no ESPN or anything like that. It was ABC, NBC, and CBS, right?
Yeah.
And everybody to the man said I was going to get drafted in the first day. Not, I don't mean to say in the first round. I mean the first day. And back then that was 7 picks. They did 20, I think, back in those days. And of course, as the picks get higher, they get quicker because the people don't spend so much time on them. But the first day you're going to go 1 to 7. Everybody told me, not just the Cowboys, everybody said, "I'm telling you, we're going to take you in the first day." And I'm thinking, this is all right. So uh, I'll never forget. My mother went someplace else because she had a bad heart, and I didn't want to get her all excited. And she was all excited, but so it was with my dad and I. And I'm sitting by the phone. I'm watching the CBS channel with the Packers who are picking, and the Packers have picked so and so in the 7th round. I thought, oh God, I didn't make it. I didn't make it to the first day. And the phone rang at 6:30 at night. And my dad goes, "You want to get it?" I'm watching the Three Stooges. That's how, intent I am, right? And I said, "No." He goes, "You kidding me? You don't want to answer the phone?" I said, "No." Because I'm depressed now. And my dad goes with his hand, "Get over here, get over here." I said, "What?" "It's the Dallas Cowboys." I go, "You gotta be kidding me." So I get on the phone. It's Gil Brandt himself, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, he says, "Hey, we're going to have a rookie camp, and we've got you all set up, and we'll get in touch with details, and we'll fly you to Dallas, and I don't know when you're graduating school, but if you want to move down here, and we'll put you up in a hotel, and you can work out in our facilities until training camp." And I mean, it was a whole spiel, right? He's about to hang up on me. Alex, this guy's going to hang up on me. I go, "No, no, no, no." He goes, "What?" I go, "Wait a minute. What round did I get drafted in?" "Oh, you were our first pick. You were our first pick in the 4th round." I'm thinking to myself, what were you doing since noon? You could, hey, have one of your assistants call me at least. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm having a heart attack over here, you know?
Oh my
I
gosh.
got drafted in the fourth round. Yeah. Well, I said, "How many picks did you have in the 4th round?" He said, "Oh, three. We got a Penn State linebacker after you, and then somebody else." I'm drafted in front of a Penn State linebacker. Go figure that. So
Yeah.
anyway, I mean, that's how it's crazy. It started.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't even know till or that night you're watching the Three Stooges. You think all hope
Right.
is lost, and then all of a sudden,
Right.
They just finally decided to get around to calling you.
Right, right.
Oh man, that's funny though. That's a good story.
Yeah.
You have another Cowboys related story that has to do with Bob Lilly. When you were
Oh
a
yeah.
rookie, you mentioned.
Yep. So Landry gives us this big scoop about, hey, the veterans are going to impose themselves on you. He had a nice way of saying that. To bring, excuse me, to bring ice to their rooms for their injuries, and everybody knew that's not for their injuries; it's for their beer. So anyway, um, right away, I don't know why I get picked by him, and he goes, "You rookie." I go, "Yeah." Bring me, a 5-pound bag of ice up to room 214. Yes, sir. I'm not one of those guys that said, I'm not too good to do that or anything like that. Because that's part of the deal back then. So I bring the ice up, knock on the door, and in the room, okay, in the room is Bob Lilly, Mike Ditka, who was a tight end at the time, okay,
Yeah.
Walt Garrison, okay, and somebody else famous who I forget at the time. But I mean, it was if I had told my buds back home, I'm sitting with these four guys, and they say to me, this isn't for our injuries, right? And I go, no, I didn't think it was. Well, would you like a beer? And I go, oh my God. And I said, of course. So I sit down and I'm minding I wouldn't dare interject myself into their conversation. I'm minding my P's and Q's. And they're laughing and telling some stories and everything. And Lily looks over at me and goes, "Hey, Rook, you done with that beer?" And I went, "Oh yeah, yeah, I wouldn't mind another one." He said, "Fine, get out of here." I'm thinking he's offering me another one because we're going to be buds. Yeah,
Yeah,
get out of
get the hell out of here.
get the hell out of here now.
Oh man, that's great. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, at least you got one beer with them.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
that
I got cut at the last cut in Dallas, and Landry comes to my room. Hello, he comes to my hotel room,
yeah.
and he said, "Look, there wasn't just there just wasn't enough room for you. 'Cause, they had 60 rookies in camp, 60,
Wow.
just
That's
rookies
that's
before
ridiculous.
the quote world champions came into the locker room. You know,
Yeah.
so it was. I said, no, I appreciate. He said you could play up in Canada. I'll make some calls for you. I said, no, I'm going to play down here. And that's how cocky I was. But I knew all this hard work I put into it and everything. Eh, I outlifted every linebacker in camp, and I'm thinking, hey, there's got to be a spot for me. So anyway, and then Cincinnati picked me up. Well, uh, I went to Cincinnati, and I said to myself, I'll tell you what, I'm not I'm not getting cut again, or there are going to be some people hurt. I'm gonna hurt on the way. And I did. I I was a special team craze guy. I was busting wedges. I didn't care. And I had a starting center for the Cleveland Browns who knew a lot of Cardinal players in St. Louis, and he moved here. And when we met, he went, "I got to tell you a story about you." I go, "What?" He goes, "The the entire Cleveland team would come to the special teams room when we played you guys and watch nobody but you." And he said, "We didn't do that for anybody. Just watch this crazy number 56, what he does to wedges and blocking people and crack back blocks and everything, that I would get fined. I'd probably get kicked out of the league for today. Um,
Yeah.
so and I really had established a reputation for hitting people on special teams, which is I thought, well, I'll make my living doing this until something happens. So
Right.
and then I went to the Chiefs. The Cincinnati, the Browns. I got into a little thing with Mike Brown, and so he traded me, and I went to the Chiefs, and boy, you talk about a great organization. The Hunts are unbelievable, good, great people, um, and I loved it there. And Willie Lanier was a little middle linebacker. Well, okay, so excuse me, sorry, got a cough in here. Um, uh, so I go to Cincinnati, and Bill Bergey's the linebacker, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's not chopped liver.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let's start with Dallas. Leroy Jordan's the starting linebacker.
Yeah.
Okay, he's not chopped liver. Bergey's the, the linebacker in Cincinnati. He's not chopped liver. I go to Kansas City. Willie Lanier's there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Next to Nitschke, the next best linebacker I've ever seen. But anyway, I got to play with him for a year.
Yeah.
But uh, it was a great team. I loved it, and the linebacker coach and I just did not see eye to eye.
Yeah.
We just did. So um, all of a sudden, I end up in St. Louis. Well, it was from the first day. I knew I'd found a home.
Yeah.
It was Don Coryell was head coach. Jim Hannafin, who later became a head coach, was the offensive line coach. The offensive line, here's the offensive line: Dan Dierdorf, Conrad Dobler, Tom Banks, Bob Young, the second strongest man in the world at the time, and Keith Whitman was the left tackle. It was a line that allowed. Are you ready for this? 11 sacks in a year.
Wow.
In a year,
Yeah.
they allow 11 sacks in a game now.
Right. Yeah.
So uh, you had that going for us, and Coryell was just a master. They're still using some of his stuff in the NFL,
Yeah.
you know, passing tree and all that. So uh, uh, I just I just found a home. It was and I found a place where there was a human middle linebacker. By the way,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
a- and he got hurt, and I got my chance. And
So
and from there on, I led the team of tackles every year, and
yeah.
I was
You
co-captain my last couple years, and I mean I had for a short period anyway. I was I had a really 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 good. I got to play with three Hall of Famers. But two of them are still best friends to this day. Dan Dierdorf, I was in his wedding. That's Monday Night Football. Dan Dierdorf, by the way.
yeah.
Uh, Jackie Smith, he and I are still best friends. Roger Worley, he's a decent back. A lot of people don't know that, but he's in the Hall of Fame. So, I mean, it's pretty heady stuff when you can play with a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. And
Yeah,
they called you guys the cardiac Cardinals.
yeah, yeah. Everything was down to the last minute. Everything.
Yeah.
And Coryell loved it. He didn't care. You know,
Yeah.
he just it was unbelievable. Well, here I had a little Jackie Smith story for you. I got two of them. We're at a party after the game at Jimmy Hart's house, and Deerdorf and I are standing there and talking to Jackie Smith. And I hear Dierdorf say to him, Jackie Smith, did you ever get tired in a game? And I look over at Dierdorf and I go, Dorf, what kind of stupid question is that? He goes, and Dierdorf's like this. He goes, why don't you shut up and let him answer? I said, okay. I look at him and I go, Jack, answer. You ever get tired in a game? And he's sitting there thinking. Now I wouldn't have to wait 2 seconds to say, you know, I couldn't wait to get to the Gatorade or the oxygen, one or the other. So,
Yeah.
and he goes, you know what? I don't guess I ever did. Here's a guy who's, by the way, at the time, 10 years older than we are. So, Dierdorf and I are 25 and 26. He's 35. And he's still
Yeah.
saying, I guess I never did get tired.
Wow.
He was a genetic mutant.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the kinds of guys who played that back then. It was crazy.
Yeah. That's crazy. Thought about it for a little while.
Yeah,
I guess
let me
not.
think. Yeah, yeah. Let me think if but I know I added to my list here, and I kind of bypassed it. I'm checking my notes here, but I'll tell you a funny story. Um, I, I tell people this: uh, if you want to win an easy $100, and they go, "What?" I said, "Ask anybody if they know anybody or have met personally anybody who's wrestled a bear."
The
And
quick
they go,
answer would be no for most people.
and they go, uh, "Yeah, well, why? What are you saying?" I said, "Because I did." And they go, "Shut up." I said, "Okay, I'll tell you the story." So, like I said, in Cincinnati, I'm establishing this reckless special team guy image, right?
Yeah.
So I walk in to the training room, and there's about 10 guys there. And I'm going there to work out, obviously. And they all turn their heads like they were expecting me or something. And I went, "What's going on?" They go, "You walked in at the right time." I said, "What do you mean by that?" They just had a thing on some program where Walter Johnson, who's a defensive tackle for the Cleveland Browns, wrestled the bear. So we're all talking, all 20 of us, including the, the, the team trainer or whoever was ramrodding this thing. And they said there's only one crazy guy on this team that would wrestle a bear, and it was you. And I didn't know that they had already contacted this network, okay, where they would bring this bear to from town to town. They had this bear that would go town to town and wrestle people from the audience at a convention center. Okay, that was their format. Now they would get some crazy football players like me to wrestle to get some notoriety.
Yeah.
And of course, I got 20 guys looking at me like, "What's your answer?" And I go, "Yeah, I guess I would." Good, because we signed you up. So now I'm stuck. I can't.
Yeah.
I I've got 20 of my buds that I can't lose face, right? I got to go. So it's at the Cincinnati Convention Center. It's up on a stage. It's a 560-pound, 6'2" bear, and they teach it. They have taught it, I should say, wrestling moves. They actually taught it wrestling moves. So I said, "What do I do?" To the under my breath to the trainer. He goes, "Just tie up with him." I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "Grab him underneath on his skin, underneath his chin." He had a muzzle on, thank God. Up he goes, and of course he goes above me, and I go, "Oh my God, what did I get myself into?" And he bites me on both of my arms. I jump back, and the trainer goes, "Oh, he's muzzled, and he's got no front teeth, so he can't hurt you." Oh, you just gum me. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. So anyway, it's on the old. I'm gonna really date myself with this one. It was on a wrestling mat, a thick wrestling mat. That's what the surface was. Okay,
Yeah.
the bear had never been down before. His, I'm trying to muscle this thing. It was like wrestling. I don't know, 5,000 tons of bricks. You couldn't move them. You
Yeah.
you could, and the trainer said, "No, don't get goofy because he'll mock you if you haul off and hit him, then you're in trouble because he'll hit you." So anyway, I'm trying to wrestle him, and his foot comes up on that mat, and I see it, and I knock the mat out from underneath his other foot, but it looked like I threw him down. And this bear had never been down before. And I jumped back, and I went, and then the next day in the paper it said Bengal barely beaten by bear. And when I went to conventions or anything after for the whole year after that, it wasn't what position do you play, or I've watched you play. I like it how you play. Oh, you're the goofball who wrestled the bear, aren't you? I mean, I got more notoriety out of that than I did out of anything, and I only got paid $200 to wrestle him or something, whatever it was back then.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's a unique story that not many other
yeah,
people can say they've done is wrestle a bear.
right. And I wouldn't do it again. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's
Eh,
also something you wouldn't see on TV anymore, you know?
No, no. So I got a couple Jackie Smith stories going to when uh, when Jackie uh, uh, through a long, convoluted way of explaining, the Cardinals didn't think in his final years that he could pass the physical here, and everybody at the team knew that was because remember now he's a genetic mutant according to Dierdorf,
Yeah.
and he's right, you know. So the Cardinals let him go to Dallas, and that's the famous, you know, he goes to Dallas and drops Starbucks pass in the end zone, and you better have some boxing gloves on if you want to bring that up to him. But so he walks into the locker room, and one of the guys he meets is Leroy Jordan, middle linebacker, tight end. Of course, they've had their battles, and Leroy takes his two false teeth out, and he goes, "You see these?" Jackie goes, "Yeah." "You knocked them out of my mouth. You knocked my teeth out of my mouth." And he goes, "Hey, I'm really sorry about that." The the linebacker before Leroy was a guy named Jerry Tubbs. He was the linebacker coach for the Cowboys for a long time. Uh, Tubbs, the play before, had clotheslined Jackie coming across the middle, which, by the way, was legal back then. Okay. Well, Jackie was going to get him back. So, but Tubbs got hurt, and Jackie didn't know it. Leroy took his spot, and Leroy the next play, or Jackie the next play, knocked Leroy's teeth out. So you think the game's not a little different? Yeah, it's a little different.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll get him back. Not
yep.
even on not even the same guy. Oh,
No.
jeez. Did he
So
do
and
anything
I
after that? Did he knock his teeth out or something?
oh no, they Jackie's got a way. He's an old Louisiana boy. He could talk his way out of stuff, and then
Yeah.
you didn't want to. You better pack a lunch if you were going to tie in Jackie anyway. So you know. So I go to and I told you I went to Kansas City. So um the craziest thing, of course, Lanier was one of my idols, and to play with him, and he was a wonderful guy, and is still. I mean, he still is a wonderful guy. But he never buckled his shoulder pads, never. And they would flop around, and finally, I I got to know him well enough to go, "Hey, Willie, what's with the not buckling your shoulder pads?" And he looked over at me and he said, "Kearney, somebody's going fast enough and hard enough in practice that I need to have those buckled. There's going to be a problem." And so that stuck in my head. And we were playing, I think, the Rams, and Merlin Olsen's younger brother was a rookie center with the Rams. Okay, and I'm waiting for my 4 plays or 3 plays behind Willie to go in and take him. And I see Willie go down. And I run out there. I said, yeah. He goes, "Get the F out of here." Whoa, okay. So the coach says, what are you doing? I said, "Willie told me to get out of there." So the guys on the team are telling me this story. He said, he looked over at the offense. He said, "Run the same play." This is a 8-time Pro Bowl guy. Nobody's going to say anything to him. And he says to anybody in the huddle, "Give me a freaking pad." Remember those big arm pads he used to? I don't. Maybe you don't remember, but he used to have big forearm pads because he didn't want to break his arm hitting people. And I guess about 4 of them fell at his feet. And he says, "Run the same play." Boom! He took that kid and knocked him out. I mean, that was it. He was done for the day at least. And and on the way down, I guess he said, "Don't you ever cut my legs out from underneath me again?" You don't cut somebody in practice like that.
Yeah.
Uh, so anyway, that was one of my Willie stories. Anyway, um,
Would
yeah,
have been, I'm sure it was the last time that kid did that, something like that. He
yes,
learned his
oh yeah,
lesson.
oh yeah, yep, yep. So
uh, oh, what were you gonna say? I don't want to interrupt
I
you
was
if
just
you.
checking my notes to make sure I didn't miss some of my good stories, but there's a bunch of them. There really is. It's uh the 6 years with the Cardinals are just with Coryell and Jim Hannaford. Here's one. Here's a really good one. You'll love this one. So in between, Coryell gets disillusioned with the Cardinals and goes to San Diego and has much success over there. And in the meantime, we hire Bud Wilkinson. Yes, the Oklahoma guy, Bud Wilkinson. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, Larry Wilson at the time, yeah, the great safety, uh, was in management of some sort, and that type of thing. Uh, he, uh, he came into the office and said, "Hey, uh, Jim, Coach Hannafin, the auto body shop called, and they're not going to have your car ready." And Bud Wilkinson, the head coach, remember at the time, said, "Oh, I'm staying downtown, Jim, in a hotel tonight. You can use mine. You take my car home." It's okay. Jim Hannafin has never gotten off at 7 o'clock at night and not had a beer in his life. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he had a few more than one. So he's driving the head coach's car and a train. I don't know how many cars, but he said there was a bunch. Is going by, and it's making him fall asleep. His head is nodding, and while the head's nodding, his foot lightly comes off the brake. Now, this is the head coach's car being fed into a train slowly enough that when Hanfin wakes up, it's like a meat slicer. Ping! 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 It's taken the right light out. It's taken pieces of the bumper. Boom! 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 And he's got it. It was about to take the left light out until Hannafin woke up and put it in reverse.
Wow.
So he
Good thing it.
drives it. He drives it into work because it's light when he goes in, and he takes it into the same shop and says, "Hey, forget about my car. Do what you got to do to fix this car. I really got to get this fixed, or I'm done." Larry Wilson comes into the meeting again and says, "Hey, Jim, the car you brought in?" He goes, "Yeah. It's not going to be done in time. There's a lot more damage than you think." And of course, Wilson goes, "What do you mean, Jim? That's my car, right?" "Yeah. There's more damage than than you think." He goes, "Yeah. I gotta tell you something, Coach."
Oh my, he's lucky it didn't his foot didn't slip on the gas and he just went right into the train and
Oh,
wow.
he's he's so lucky. But I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
I
wow.
I never let him forget that. Well, he'd come into the locker room. I go, "Hey, choo choo."
How's coach's car doing, huh?
Right, right.
Oh, that's great.
uh,
That is great. You also mentioned that you had a Conrad Dobler story that in your notes.
his 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 stories are. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad he was my teammate. Okay, and was he as dirty as everybody says? Yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, even in practice.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, he's the right guard. I'm the left inside linebacker.
Yeah.
But and by now I'm starting. Okay, so we're not getting along at all. And of course he he was a weird duck, and he wasn't one of my best buds anyway. But uh, I said after I got fed up with it for a while, I said, "Connor, here's the deal. If you want to fight, I'll fight you every day. It's okay. I'll come to practice and we'll duke it out. But you got to stop. I'm on your team. I'm not one of those
Yeah.
guys out there on Sunday. You know, uh, so you decide what to do. But that's the way I'm leaving it."
Yeah.
And I think he really respected me for that. I said, "You want to go every day? Fine, I'll go every day with you."
Yeah.
But uh, uh, he he also fashioned himself as a ladies' man. Okay, so Phyllis George of the NFL Today was coming in to interview him in training camp. Well, everybody in training camp, they you got shorts and flip flops and a t-shirt. you know, he, he comes in decked out, and this is in training camp now. And Jackie Smith sees this, and I can just see the wheels turning, and Jackie's. So I see Jackie go see Jim Hannafin, like, "Hey, can I go up to the locker room 15 minutes early?" And of course, Hannafin lets him. "Yeah, sure." And he tells him why. He goes up to the locker room and takes his scissors and cuts Conrad Dobler's pants, one of them completely off. So he's got to go meet this babe, Phyllis George from NFL Today, with cut off leg and just disarray in his wardrobe. And I mean, he goes nuts. He's throwing stuff all over the locker room and everything. And I'm going to find out who did this. And Jackie's just sitting back laughing, and every rookie that got cut on the Cardinals that year, Dobler would go, "Hey, who cut my pants? Who cut my pants? Who cut my pants?" Of course, nobody would tell him.
Yeah.
I mean, those are just the things that the guys do that you think, what the hell is that? That's kind of goofy, isn't it? But I
Yeah.
mean, you get bored in training camp. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Did anyone ever tell him who did it?
Uh, you know what? No, he never knew to this day.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
It's that you gotta have a pretty good poker face, or not,
Yes,
not give it away that it was you when Jackie
but
Smith's
like I
sitting
said,
there.
don't get me wrong. I was glad he was on my team on Sunday, but he was a weird duck.
Yeah, and like you said, one of the dirtiest players in history, noted
Oh,
for being, yeah,
we're playing the Rams one time out in L.A. and 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 he was beating Merlin Olsen up so bad that Merlin Olsen took himself out of the game. I
wow,
saw that with my own eyes. I mean, he just would. I was watching him get ready for a game one time in the training room, and I see him taping shin pads on both sides of his leg, the back and the front. Now, you shin pads are supposed to be on the front,
yeah,
but he's taping them on the back. So when he leg whips guys, okay, he doesn't
yeah,
hurt the back of his legs. I'm thinking, now that's some crazy stuff there.
a little twisted, yeah.
Yeah, that's like,
Gee.
okay, I'm gonna put a forearm pad on, but I'm gonna put some spikes in there too.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, it just doesn't.
jeez,
Yeah, it didn't compute. But anyway,
right, yeah. At least he was on your team. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yes,
jeez, that's crazy. So, towards the end of your career, you got injured, and that kind of ended your playing career. What was your injury?
yeah. I goofed my neck up pretty good because I tackled with my head, you know. Um, and and they said, you're one bad play away from really injuring yourself, and that would have been from my 11th year.
Yeah,
And 10 years. Shoot, there's I forget what the percentage was of guys who a make it in the NFL. Number
right.
one, number two, play 10 years. It's just
Yeah,
I figure, what the heck, other than that, I left the game, with a couple knee operations, but nothing minor. It was cartilage and stuff like that. And I had one guy with the Chiefs say, "You know why you're never gonna get a knee problem?" I said, "Why is that?" Because you never break down the tackle. Either you're gonna kill the guy or you're gonna miss him. I go, there's a lot of truth in that, I guess.
yeah. That's funny. And like you had mentioned, it's totally different NFL now. Different things that were legal back when you played that are far from legal now. You
Yeah, I
can't even hit the quarterback anymore. Really, I mean,
no. There's a and it's floating around. I should have sent it to you, but there's a my first year in St. Louis. Of course, I'm on the wedge, on the kickoff, wedge buster, and we're playing the Eagles, and the whole front line of the wedge let me through, and then the wedge itself lets me through. I have a 40-yard run on the kickoff guy, and I overrun him a little bit, and I clothesline him. Well, he didn't leave St. Louis till Wednesday. Okay, this is
Gee.
yeah, and I clotheslined that guy, and I recovered the fumble. And Dierdorf said it was the hardest hit he'd ever seen.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't get. There wasn't a fine. There wasn't a. All the beat writers from Philadelphia were, hey, hey, we're trying to kill somebody. What are you doing? I go, hey, it's a be hit game. So was there?
Yeah.
But look, was there a flag? They went no. So what are you talking to me about?
Yeah.
It's not illegal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It
I
probably would
mean,
have
but
been
today,
big fine, suspended for 4 games or who knows what. I mean,
yeah, oh yeah, it would have been something else. That's for sure.
so
Yep,
what do you think of the softer league?
I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's the the thing, Alex, that I tell people the most is what you won't believe. Even back when I played, was when you made your first quote start, when you were a starter
Yeah.
against the other starters. Okay, the other opposing team, obviously. You wouldn't believe how fast everything is out there. You make a false step in the guard or center or whoever, it's got an angle on you, and you're toast. I mean, you got to fight out of that mess,
Yeah.
or he's got you on skates, one or the other. But you just can't believe how fast everything is. So my point to people is, uh, you can't throttle down that speed. How do you? How do I approach a, a well, Walter Payton, who sees the hole, and I see the hole, and I go in the hole the same time he does.
Yeah.
Oh, something's going to happen,
Right.
or shoot, I played against Earl Campbell, I played against Larry Zonka. Those guys
Yeah.
didn't throttle down. I mean, what do you know?
No.
Oh, I hope you wrap me up, okay? What?
Yeah.
What?
No. 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 Yeah. Yeah. I remember watching the old highlight reels of Earl Campbell. Find on YouTube or whatever, and he just ran like a wild man. Just didn't matter. He'd run people over. I saw ones. His jersey's getting ripped off of his. As he's running, his jersey's fully ripped off. He's still going. I mean, just
I said to
just
our defensive
crazy.
coordinator before we played the Oilers, and he was a great friend of mine too. This linebacker coach. I said, "How many blitzes we got in this for Sunday?" He goes, same amount." I go, "Are you watching the same films I'm watching?" He goes,
Yeah.
"What?" I said, "Coach, get me running forward before I go flying backwards, would you?" He goes, "Well, that's a
Yeah.
great attitude." I said, "Well, I'm telling you, you got to have a run at Earl Campbell, or he's not going down."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah,
Just ran people right into the ground. Didn't
yeah.
stop.
Nope, nope. And then Walter Payton, I mean, he was unbelievable. I wish I could have got to know him a little better to tell him how good I thought he was. But of course, everybody thought the
Right.
same thing. So that's
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's trending this direction in all the major sports. You look at hockey, they don't fight as much. You can't do certain hits anymore without guys getting fined and suspended. You
yeah.
look at the NFL. I mean, it's across the board, and they're different leagues now. It's completely different.
You know, when I go speak, not as much as I used to, but I go talk to people. What's interesting is um, the subject of money always comes up, and I don't know that I didn't put this on my list with you, but uh, it I was a fourth round pick on an 83rd guy in the country taken. Okay, and they go, "Oh man, you had to have been making some money." My first year was $18,000.
Yeah, that's
But as I tell him, it jumped all the way up to 20 my second year. And that was a Cowboys contract. I mean, just because you don't play for the Cowboys anymore, your contract goes with you.
right.
you know, yeah. The Bengals don't renegotiate your contract; they just take it. So and then my third year, I made it was 18, 20, and $22,000. And people go,
Wow.
"That's crazy." Everybody worked in the off season, to get by.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
completely
well,
different than now. The $20 million
yes, yeah,
deals
and
and
half of it's guaranteed. And it's
yeah,
just crazy.
it
Yeah.
is. Yeah,
But
it
you know
really
what?
is.
I wouldn't have traded my experiences and people I played with. I mean, it was it was wonderful. It was
Right.
wonderful.
And now you'll always be known as Tim Kearney, the guy who wrestled a bear.
There you go. There you go. Now you can always win $100.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. Is there, did you ever know that like the video footage of that somewhere out on YouTube of that show or anything? Have you ever found anything or
No, that was way before
yeah,
any that. But I got a I got a framed 8x10 of it, obviously,
right.
and that's a big conversation. And I got it on my phone, so it,
Yeah.
just because I want to win the $100. I said, yeah, I can prove it to you. Here it is.
Right. Yeah, yeah, it's too bad somebody didn't find an old tape of it or something somewhere and try to get it online. But I'm sure
Right.
it's long gone by now. If
Yeah. Yeah.
there's so many old shows or whatever, and if you don't recover a tape, you'll never get it online, obviously, and it's just gone
No.
forever.
No.
That's still it's a really cool, really cool story. Oh my gosh, wrestle a bear. Wow. When you first texted me that, I was thinking he can't be serious. A real bear?
No. No.
Uh,
It was, and then for that bear to trip, that just made the whole story. Of course, of course, if they asked me, did he trip? I wouldn't say that. I said, no, I threw him down. Of course, I didn't.
yeah.
I couldn't have done that in a million years.
Oh man, that's awesome. I appreciate your stories. I love them. They're great. This is one of my favorite parts about doing the podcast is getting these stories that you'd never hear otherwise unless you were talking to somebody one on one.
Right.
They're unique stories. You can't just Google it and find these out. I mean, they're personal stories that nobody would know, like the Bob Lilly and the beer story. I mean, just you
Are you
know,
finished? They go, yeah. Can I get another one? No,
yeah.
get the hell out.
Oh, yeah. That's great. Yeah, I
Hmm.
thank you, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I had a good
Oh no,
time.
anytime. I enjoy it. I enjoy talking about the old days.
Yeah, it was good to reminisce,
Yep, it
bring
really
back the old
is.
memories.
Yep,
Yeah, I really
yep.
appreciate it.
Anytime, buddy. Anytime. Yeah.
Here we go. Extra Dan Dierdorf story here.
Yes. So he's on Monday Night Football for years now. This is, I don't know, 10 or 12 years.
Yeah,
Al Michaels and Frank Gifford. That's the team.
yeah,
So he says to me, uh, hey, we're playing Indianapolis on Monday night. I said, I know. I follow. I watch Monday night all the time. You want to go? I said, what are you talking about? You and I. Let's go. I go, well, I know you got to go, but what am I doing? You're coming with. What? Where? Up in the booth. I said, I go, hell yeah, I'll go with you. He said, yeah, we
yeah,
can drive. It's an easy drive from St. Louis. I said, okay, here we go. We're going, driving into Indianapolis. So I said, well, it's the night before. You probably got meetings. You got to do homework. Huh? He goes, he laughs. He goes, homework? I know everything about these guys. Are you kidding me? We're going out to dinner with Frank and Al. I'm sitting there with the Monday Night Football team announcers having
Yeah.
dinner, and I'm going, boy, boys back in Kingsford wouldn't believe this,
Yeah.
So I'm up in the booth with them,
Yeah.
and finally I'm figuring out that he's hitting the mute button when he turned to me and he go, "Hey, go get me a Coke." It's okay. I run get him a Coke. Half an hour later, hey, yeah, go get me a hot dog. I go get him something to eat. So on the way back, I go on, hey Darf, I gotta tell you something. So what? That you should be ashamed of yourself. He goes, why? I go, that they pay you all this money to do what I saw you do last night. He goes, oh really? He goes, and he's like this too. Oh really? I go, yeah, good. Why don't you do it then? I didn't say anything. I didn't say I could do it. Then why don't you shut up? And I go, good point, good point. I couldn't have done. I mean, he just made it sound so like it was watching football in his living room.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that was and that's the way it was supposed to be.
Right.
Right. And I said, Dorf, you got a gift, boy, that you just can't believe. I mean,
Yeah.
eh, eh, you make it sound so natural. It's just, and he goes, that's why it's supposed to be, and that's why
Right.
you couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just flows like you said, like you're watching it in your living room. That's what people want to hear.
Yes, yeah, that's why he was so good.
Yeah.
You know, none of us made very much money playing for the Cardinals, and he didn't either. But he did well afterwards. And he's a great guy. You
Yeah.
talk about a storyteller. There is a storyteller, boy. He can he's got them one after the other. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
Thanks for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes soon.